Hello everyone, I'm FARMERSIM and welcome back to Iowa Cattle. I hope you're all doing really well and having a great day. So we're picking off almost exactly where we left off on the last episode. As you can see, we've just finished baling the hay up, and we've got a big job ahead of us using our shiny new bale loader to get them all picked up and up to the farm. But right now, as I stand, today is the 12th of May. Yesterday evening, Realistic Livestock was released by Arrow over on his GitHub. I know a lot of people have been very excited for the release of this mod. It is, I have got it running now on this save. I've spent a couple of minutes looking at it, and so far what I've seen is absolutely incredible. It brings a world of immersion and detail into the mechanics of animals on your farm. It's absolutely brilliant. There's not a huge amount of literature or anything to read much at the minute regarding what it does bring to the game, but what I have seen so far is brilliant. It really is. It's going to be a lot of work, I've got to say, because for a farm like this, and I know I say we've only got 361 head of cattle, but we've only got 361 head of cattle in comparison to what I'm planning on in the future. Putting them, we built that pasture last episode where it can hold 1090, if I remember correctly. Those of you who did watch the last episode know that the plan eventually, when we've got all the cattle into the barn for the winter, I'm going to expand, and we're going to build one, maybe two more indoor cow barns to put more cattle in the winter, because the current capacity of the one we have on the farm here is 350, I think. So once we get all the cattle out of our current pastures, that's going to be at full capacity. So if I'm going to get more cattle on the farm, several hundred of, I'm going to need a good couple more indoor barns for the winter. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of plans moving forward. But that's one of the things I really enjoy about this game, is when you've set yourself up a farm, or in my case, my good friend Chimera has set up this farm for me, building wise. But obviously, having it set up as it is at the minute is great, and you play along with it, and then you get an idea, you give yourself some plans for the future, and it for me anyway, it just keeps me really involved in it. I'm really excited to get expanding the farm, putting my own little bit of construction into this particular farm. That's one of the bits I'm looking forward to, which is great. But I can't do anything about that yet, because I've got to do things in the right order. We've got to get the cattle out the pastures and into the barn before I can faff around with any of the other pastures. And one of the pastures we're going to be keeping this one here on the left, this beautiful pasture that's right by our farm. The other pasture that we've got cattle in at the minute, we're going to be essentially removing that and using that land to construct the new cow barns on, so I don't have to invest any money in another plot of land to build on. And then the massive pasture on the far east side of the map is then going to house the cattle that were in that one, plus any more that I purchase. So, a nice plan moving forward, but obviously initially we need to get those hay bales picked up out the field, because obviously the cows have still got a couple of months ahead of them before they're going to be brought into the barn, and I need to make sure that they don't starve to death. Our bunkers are, the big bunker that's full is 67% fermented, and the one next door to it, which is only half full, is 31% fermented. So that's ticking away nicely, which is great. So we've got to get the hay bales picked up, but obviously as well, another wonderful mod and another addition, a huge addition to realism in Farming Simulator 25, was the release of Precision Farming a few days ago. Now, I have already released a video over on Oak Bridge Farm, which has now got Precision Farming running, and I did spend an enormous amount of time, just north of 2 hours, scanning. I leased the field scanner, and I scanned all of my land. Now, doing that, in comparison to just buying the soil data straight out of the map PDA, saved me north of 40,000 quid, which is brilliant. But on this farm, I have a considerably larger quantity of land to consider. I could do that, obviously. There's nothing stopping me from doing it essentially the economical way, but because I have a lot more land on this farm, the fields are much bigger, and it is a massive job. And bearing in mind that last episode, as you see from the bank balance, we're north of 330 grand. So I'm going to be, well, I suppose the correct term is I'm going to be a bit lazy. I'm going to buy in all the soil data from the map this time on this save, just just because I can afford in this instance to be a little bit lazy and a bit a bit frivolous with the money in that respect. It's going to cost me in all $125,000 to buy in every single field's worth of soil data for the map. Obviously not the land that it's just our arable fields and the grass fields. Essentially, that's going to come to 125 grand. So it'll still leave me with 213 grand in the bank, which is fine. I'm happy to do that, because obviously 200 grand is likely still going to be able to cover me for the purchasing and constructing of 2 new cow barns in the future. We do, obviously, I know we're only in September at the minute, but we're going to have harvest next year as well, which is going to bring in hopefully a decent amount of money. So I'm prepared to do that. That's the point. I'd rather have a go at doing it that way, and then I've experienced it doing it the proper way over on Oak Bridge, and doing it this way, just buying in the data and seeing what we can do with that. So yeah, as I say, it'll leave me with about $213,631 in the bank, to be absolutely precise. So I'm going to go for that. I'll do that at some point soon. I don't need to do it right away. But so the plan is, initially anyway, we're going to be cracking on with our little John Deere here, using our nice new bale loader that we purchased in the last episode, and getting all those bales picked up and loaded into this bale barn here. Now I'm hoping, because the trigger isn't actually visible, the loading trigger isn't actually visible in this at the front of this particular bale barn, but I'm kind of hoping that I should be able to kind of unload the bales somewhere around here, and then they will auto load into the bale barn itself. So I'm hoping that is how it's going to work. What I am going to do, because this is quite a big job, I am going to throw the whole backing and toing and loading into the barn there into a bit of a time lapse, because it is going to take a while. We've got quite a lot of bales to load up. So yeah, that's the initial plan for today's episode, and then following on from that, I do need to top up the cows in the pastures with a bit of water. We may well top them up with a bit more food as well, throw a couple of more hay bales in there. They do still have something obviously in there, but like I said, they do need topping up. We need to keep on top of them for the next couple of months. But I do need to try and make sure that I'm not just, again, frivolous with the food. I'm not just going to throw loads and loads of food in there, because when I take the animals out of the pasture to put them into the barn, I want to try and leave as little food as I can in the pasture, because one of the pastures is going to be deleted. The other pasture is just going to sit dormant till spring next year. So I'm just trying to be mindful of that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, there we go. Plan moving forward, we need to get all these bales picked up. So no time like the present, no time to faff around. Let's get doing it.
You and I, we're trouble inside. Beating hearts don't lie. An empty page, a story to write. I'm in love, you're divine, and it's all in our signs. We're going away. Get your bag, check the tag. Decision is made. Lock your door, need no more. It's already paid. Cancel your bill for a while. It's a journey for life, and I'm your ride. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong. God, I'm praying I'm not alone in this air of hope. 'Cause I'm in love, you're a star burning bright in my heart. We're going away. Get your bag, check the tag. Decision is made. Lock your door, need no more. It's already paid. Cancel your mail for a while. It's a journey for life, and I'm your ride. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong. We're going away. Get your back, check the tag. journey for life, and I've already paid. Cancel your mail for a while. It's a journey for life, and I'm alright. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong. Hang on, we'll be long gone. Hang on, I cannot go wrong. God, I'm praying I'm not alone in this air. A journey for life, I'm alright.
There we go. Bale picking up, done. I must admit, I'm very glad that I made the investment in this bale loader. It's saved me a huge amount of time. It's really, really helpful. That could have taken me several hours, but it's only 2:05 now in the afternoon. Not taking long to get all those picked up. So this is the last load. We didn't have a full trailer load. We just had 12 left in the field to get picked up. So let's get this thing loaded in. Unfortunately, no doubt, as you saw from that bit of a time lapse there, I can't actually place them down within the loading trigger of the bale barn there. I do have to get out and do it by hand, as it were, with the telehandler, but that's fine. It's all good. Now, a couple of things I wanted to touch base on. We are going to go and have a look at the realistic livestock mod in a little bit more detail in a moment or two's time, but I did want to touch base on something. It was a bit of an error that I made in the last episode regarding realistic weather and the moisture in the fields and the tedding of the hay. If any of you did see the last episode, you'll know that obviously we mowed the grass, we tedded the grass, and massive portions of the field. Hello, that was a bit wobbly, wasn't it? Got my boom extended a bit too far there. Yeah, massive portions of the field hadn't actually dried off and turned to hay when we ran the tedder. Now, initially, me being me, I just naturally thought that was a bit of a bug with realistic weather. So my solution at the time to get the job done in a reasonable amount of time was just to jump out the game, turn off realistic weather, come back into the game. Sure enough, all the tedded grass had turned, was all, you know, a blanket of hay. And then once that was in that state, I then came back out the game, re-enabled realistic weather, came and then back into the game, and, you know, as far as I was concerned, that was the bug fixed. But it wasn't a bug, of course. That was a new mechanic of realistic weather. Essentially, the area of the field that hadn't been tedded was too high. You know, the moisture levels were too high, so that particular area of grass, or those particular areas of grass, hadn't had a chance to dry. So had I given them enough time, they would have eventually dried out and turned to hay. So again, that's a really, really cool mechanic that realistic weather offers. Obviously, it's realistic in a way. So knowing that now, I am going to try my very best in respect of, well, initially I'm going to try and do something pretty stupid here, goodness me. Just try very gently to move these bouncing bales. There we go, job done. Right, so how many have we got in here now? Let's have a look. 96 bales, wonderful, all good, very happy with that. So yeah, like I say, moving into the future, one of the things that would have done is essentially would have delayed the baling up of the hay and where we are now. So we'd be a little bit of time behind now, because we'd have been waiting for that hay to grass to dry off and turn to hay. Now, interestingly, one thing I do want to learn is what is the ideal time structure, time scale to have the game set to, whether it's you know, days per month and whatnot, to allow realistic weather to do its thing, because that could have taken several days or possibly into the next month before we'd have been able to pick that undried grass up once it had turned to hay, if you know what I mean. So I do need to figure out what is the best time structure to have it set to in order to take advantage of the full mechanics that realistic weather has to offer. So there's going to be a little bit of tweaking going on, no doubt, into the future. I do very much wish and plan on learning more about what realistic weather brings to the game in its full. So yeah, until then though, we're just gonna have to crack on as we are. Now then, the next realistic mod, it's all done by the same modder as well. Realistic Weather and Realistic Livestock are both produced by a modder called Arrow. Clearly a very talented individual when it comes to these mods. It's brilliant. I'm just going to park that bale loader up there for now, and we'll pop the tractor here out the way, because right now we're going to go and have a little bit of a look at what Realistic Livestock has brought to the game. Now, I have already noticed a couple of things. Now, I'm not going to go out of the... I'm not going to say now that they are bugs, because they're probably not bugs. Last time I was wrong with the one I've just talked about, the tedding of the hay. This may well not be a bug. There is one visual bug that I can almost definitely say is a bug. It doesn't seem to be affecting anything in the minute, but visually, in the cow pastures, I don't have any Holstein cows. Initially, the pastures are both at capacity, and half of them are Brown Swiss and half of them are Holsteins. And at the minute, visually, we only have Brown Swiss visible to see. Everything in the field is Brown Swiss cows. So that's fine. That's all good. Let's just open this little gate and go and have a look. But as you can see, initially, what we have before going into any of the menus, and you'll have to forgive the little badge that says UK there, but all of our cattle now, thanks to Realistic Livestock, are all individualised. As you'll see from the box on the right-hand side, it tells us the type of animal it is. It's a Brown Swiss, and it gives it a unique ID and a farm ID. It's got an age, it's got a birthday, it's at health. Obviously, it gives us all the information we need. It's got an individual weight, a targeted weight, lactating, reproduction, and can reproduce no suitable male animal. Now, as you see there, it said no suitable male animal. Now, another wonderful feature that Realistic Livestock has brought into the game is we now have bulls. So what we can do now, I'm not necessarily going to do it yet in these pastures, because my breeding barn is that one there. So we're going to go and have what we are going to do over there, we're going to go and buy a bull and put him into the pasture, and then from then, that message that we see here where it says can reproduce no, because there's no suitable male animal, that should then change, and the bull should be able to go and have a lot of fun in there with the 60 odd head of cattle that are in there and start reproducing. So that's really cool. It's just incredible what these mods can bring to the game. They really can. But yeah, as I say, visually, each of the cattle are individualised, and each one has its own little tag there that corresponds. So as you can see there, ID 410102, and that corresponds to the box on the right hand side as well. And each of the animals has got their own individual number, which is absolutely brilliant. It really is. But as I said, visually, there's no Holsteins in the pasture here. But if I go into the menus very quickly and have a look here, as you can see, this is the cow pasture we're in, and you can see that we have Holsteins there, and the Brown Swiss when we scroll right down to the bottom. But instead of just having a couple of boxes here, which with the batches of cows that I initially purchased when I started this series, we've now got, however many we've got. I think we've got 150 something in this pasture. But yeah, spread between the Brown Swiss and the Holsteins, each of them individualised. You can see them there from their ID numbers there in the box, which is great. So yeah, but the other thing that I have noticed, obviously now, initially we have no milk being produced here in the pen information on the right hand side. Previously, before Realistic Livestock, we did, and I think what might have been in the last episode that I did sell a tanker load of milk from both of the pastures. But as you can see, we do have a menu here for lactating, and at the minute they're not lactating. So I'm not going to go out and go, oh no, there's a bug here, it's not producing milk. I'm assuming what I need to do is wait for time to progress, and then once these cows start lactating, then we will start seeing milk. I'm assuming that is, the new process that's going to be involved thanks to Realistic Livestock. So we shall let time do its thing over the next few episodes, over the next few in-game days, months, weeks, whatever, and see what happens with that. I'll certainly be keeping my ear to the ground over on my Discord and over at Arrow's GitHub page for this particular mod, and just keep up to date with the latest information from it, because it's absolutely brilliant. It really is. It's just having this level of detail now in the game, I think, is wonderful. Now, like I said before, regarding the visual bug with the pastures, that bug doesn't seem to be prevalent with this bale barn, with this cow barn, sorry, this breeding barn. So we can still see we have our Holsteins here, we have our brown Swiss, as we do in the menu. So everything. So whether it's a conflict between the fenceless pastures mod that we have these two pastures running on at the minute, I'm not too sure. Time will tell. But because we have them in the menus, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it for now. This lot are doing really quite well. So what we do need to do now is we need to add a bit of a bull into our breeding barn here to get them breeding. So we open our animal dialogue. Now, as you can see, again, a lot more information is given for the individual cows and whatnot that you can purchase here. So we can buy brown Swiss ones, we can buy the Holsteins, of course, but then you got your bulls, and it gives you information on them here as well based on their age, I believe. Now, the top one here, the most expensive one, is the oldest one at 25 months, and generally, as a rule, the information that we have here, it's got bad health, its quality is relatively low, its weight is and whatnot, everything's in yellow there. But if we go down to the slightly, and we go younger, so here you can see now we have a 13-month-old bull. Its fertility is very high, its health is high, overall generally a very good condition. If we go to a very young one here, which we'll have to wait for more time, obviously, because this is only 10 months old, so we'll have to wait a few months before they can reproduce, you get a much better quality bull. But I must admit, I would like to start getting reproduction going relatively quickly. So we're going to buy a bull. There we go. Once you've selected that, we go to select. There we go. And then I must admit, I'm not too sure what this is. It's transporting to the. Actually, that's what it is. Actually, yeah, it's transporting it to the large cow barn that we're in here. So we select that, and then we can select the number of animals that we want. So I think at the minute I can only buy one. Yeah. So we click on buy. There we go. $1,721. There we go. We now have a bull. Now, let's come out of here now. So I did put this to the test earlier on, just that I had a rough idea that I knew what I was going to be talking about when I went through this process. Now, because we've bought the bull, but I couldn't actually spot the thing when I tested this before. I couldn't actually spot it, so I went around the pasture looking at all the individual. I basically went bull spotting essentially. So, but I went around all the Holsteins because I bought a Holstein bull. And I couldn't seem to spot him at all. Back in FARMERSIM 22, when the enhanced animal mod was around, when you bought a bull, you could tell it a mile away. You could just spot it. I'm getting sandwiched in, but too many cows here. Goodness me. Yeah, you could spot it a mile away, and it was like, yep, there's my bull, because he was physically bigger. He had horns. Whereas so far, with realistic livestock here, it's much harder to spot, or whether it's just not visually appearing anywhere, which is fine. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. That's a female. Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It's in the menu, and now when we go to when we look at the cow here, for example, if I hover over it, it says can reproduce. It now says yes. So it is the pasture, the area itself is registering that there is a male cow bull in the pasture, and that these gals can reproduce. So essentially he just needs to do his thing, as it were, and start getting jiggy with it with a few of these female cows, and start reproducing some baby calves for us, please, big guy, wherever you are. But yeah, like I say, I don't think it's visible as it happens. So yeah, so far I haven't spotted any bull whatsoever. Everything that you can see here is female. But like I said, I'm not bothered. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. It's in the menu, it's working, and that's all that matters right now. I'm sure whether this is the mod is in its infancy in that respect, so I'm not too bothered about worrying whether it's broken or not in that respect. So let's just get ourselves out of here and let them crack on with what they need to crack on with. So now that we've got, like I say, that's a very, very brief overview of what we've got in this save with realistic livestock, but it's brilliant, and I feel generally as a rule now, Farming Simulator 25 I think is really starting to pick up, I've got to say. It's now that we've got the addition of these wonderful mods. Now, of course, mods like realistic weather, mods like realistic livestock, they are entirely down to on PC, unfortunately, that, you know, console players are never going to get those kind of mods because they are heavily reliant on scripts, so they can't make it to consoles, unfortunately. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware that's not down to Giants. That is entirely down to the console producers, Sony and Microsoft, not allowing massive changes to the game. So that is what it is in that respect. Now, onwards from that as well, because we have now got precision farming running on this map, what I have had to do, obviously, is DR Modding did release an update to the map the other day to allow support for precision farming. That brought along with it, essentially, it was an entirely different map with a different name, so I've had to transfer in all my save game data from the previous save into this one and make sure everything worked. And sure enough, you know, look, there was little things I had to amend. Obviously, it can be a relatively tricky thing, transferring save data from one save game into another and expecting it to work. I did have to remove a few trees and whatnot, and a few things of, like, for example, this header, for example, just decided to move all on its own into some jaunty angle, which is by the by. But the one thing it has done, obviously, is now that I have, as you can see, sorry, I've meant to mention as well, if you can see from the bank balance there, I have, off camera, just at the end of sorting all those bales out, I have purchased all the soil information for our fields. It did cost a couple of dollars more than what I initially said before, because I'd forgotten to include field 9, which is the small alfalfa field next to the cow barn, and I forgot to include field 16 at the grass field at the northeast of the map. But jumping into our map PDA now and having a look, as you can see, we have now got all the soil types, as you can see, for all the land that we own here. Thankfully, I haven't got too much silty clay on the field, on the farm. Field 17 is made up predominantly of silty clay there, but the big fields over here aren't too bad. They're predominantly loam, and a bit of sandy loam there, a bit of loamy sand. But yeah, it's all good. That's all that matters. And this one here, the field 11, the grass field here, is entirely loam. So I seem to remember that loam was the most friendliest and average of all the different soil types. But yeah, it's all good. So we now have a bit of a soil map, and like I said before, I was happy to instigate a bit of laziness in that respect after doing it over on Oakbridge Farm the other day. It took me several hours, and it was mind-numbingly mundane, driving around, just starting, stopping, scanning for several hours, getting all the data in. So while I had a few $100,000 in the bank on this save, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to purchase it. So there we are with that. But what this has brought to light is, if you remember an episode or so ago, I did run the big Fendt that we sold in the last episode. We ran the slurry tanker in field 1 here to bring up the nitrogen level of the field. But when we go to our nitrogen map now that we've got, thanks to precision farming, there is absolutely no evidence in field 1 here of having ran any kind of manure, slurry, anything like that. And it's the same with field 11 here. I think it was the first or second episode I ran the manure spreader and to bring up the nitrogen levels of field 11 here as well. So what it looks like as a possibility is, thanks to the addition of precision farming at the timing that it has come, we've lost all of the nitrogen that we've spread in these two fields. Now, I'm not going to lose any sleep. I'm not going to cry about it. It is what it is. So they need to be done again while these fields are in their harvested state. Now, field 3 here, which is the one that we've just emptied of all the hay bales. Field 1, Field 3, and Field 11 are the fields currently that we can do some work in. Obviously, the corn, the soybeans in fields 15, Field 4, Field 5 over here, and Field 17. We can't do anything with those now until harvest time. Once we get it out the ground, the yield will be what it will be, and then once the crop is out the ground, then we can start working on the soil, increasing the health of the soil with the lime and with the nitrogen. Sorry, bobbing back into the lime. The pH map as well. As you can see, it's not too bad. It's somewhere averagely. It's somewhere around the middle there. It's not too heavy. It's not too high in pH in the blue, and it's not too low in pH in the red. It's nicely somewhere in the middle, which is good. But so that, you know, again, we can't do anything with that, and we can do it in field 1, field 3, and field 11 here. But until we get the crops out the ground come harvest time for the others, it will just have to be what it will be. So I think that is one of the things that I do need to crack on with now then, because those fields are in a harvested state now, the grass has been cut, because there's no crop growing in there. I need to consider sorting out the pH levels and the nitrogen levels. So that's exactly what we're going to do. It has just crossed my mind though. I hope I'm not, yeah. I don't actually think I've got a lime spreader, have I? That might be something I'm going to have to purchase. I hadn't actually considered that, goodness me. Yeah, I don't think I've got a lime spreader, have I? What an epic fail on my part while I was setting up the save. I just need to remind myself, actually. I think I'm going a bit mad here. When I started the save, I tried to make sure that I had a little bit of the right equipment to get things done, but I don't actually think I've got a solid fertilizer spreader. Or a lime spreader, sorry. Let's just have a quick peek. There's nothing in there. I know there's definitely nothing in there. No, I don't think I have I? Goodness me. Let me just remind myself what we've got in this shed round the side here, but this is just grasswork equipment essentially. We've got our mower, our tedder, our merger, and our manure spreader. No, I haven't got a lime spreader, have I? Epic fail. So I think that might be something I need to purchase as a matter of urgency, so we can get those grass fields and the pH values brought back up again. And I'm trying to think if there's actually somewhere on the map I might even need to place down my own lime tank. Yeah, right. Well, so either way, we need to concentrate on that. I'm thinking about it, actually. I think I do need to do... I should really be doing the lime first, shouldn't I? Spread the lime first and then coat it with a coat of either slurry or manure afterwards. So I think give me a couple of minutes, ladies and gentlemen. I will have a look into this. I shall make a purchase of a lime spreader. This might need to be a particularly big one, considering the size of the farm, and maybe somewhere to purchase some lime from, or at least a lime tank to put lime into. And we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a few minutes. I'll tell you what, though, I am very glad that I did make the decision to sell that Fendt in the last episode. Had I not done that, I'd have been pretty stumped right now, because we wouldn't have had the money we've needed to achieve what we've achieved in respect of soil data. A lime tank, this lime spreader that I've got behind me now, that has just cost, so I've just spent, what have I spent? I've spent 88 grand on this lime spreader that's behind me. I have spent 26 and a bit grand on a lime tank that I've just placed around the corner here. I've spent 15 grand filling it up with lime. Takes 60,000 litres. It is a base game thing. I haven't really faffed around too much with any kind of fancy lime tank. This one will do the job just fine. So there we go. Let's get this thing filled up. Yep, fill that up with lime. Thank you very much. So now the bank account is looking slightly less healthier than it was before. 75,321 bucks, but it is what it is. It's got to be done. We need the soil data. That's going to give us a much better amount of accuracy when it comes to spreading fertilizer and lime and manure and slurry and all that kind of stuff in the future, which is good. But yeah, now we need to work on bringing up the pH levels of our fields. Now I'm going to concentrate first on one of the biggest, the field that we've just picked all the bales up out of, actually, and we're going to get that done. Get it spread with a bit of lime. What I am going to do, like I have done on Oakbridge Farm, I do have the adjustable spray levels mod activated in this save, as some of you may well know. After the episode where I spread the manure, I was able to get a whole tank of manure, a whole manure spreader's worth of manure, sorry, to last the whole field, which is great. So, and I know it does work with lime as well. Well, I hope it does. I hope I'm not going to eat my words, but yeah, it worked over on Oakbridge. I was able to adjust the levels of the spray level down to 20%, and Precision Farming was still able to recognise and accept that spreading of lime at the 20% level to bring the pH levels of the soil back up to where it needs to be. So hopefully I'm going to be able to do the same with this as well. So we need to make a start and get our soil level brought up, the pH levels anyway in this instance, with this new lime spreader. So yeah, I did... I've kitted this lime spreader out with the 18 metre spread width as opposed to the standard 12, because, well, our fields are big, so it just makes more sense in that respect. So we need to crack on. We do have some rain on the way, but that's not due till about 8 o'clock tonight. So we've got a few hours ahead of us. So I think what we'll crack on with now and potentially box off this episode is we'll get some lime spread in field. I is it field 3 or field 4? It is the one we've just picked all the hay bales out of. And then we need to get back into field 11 here, that is on our left hand side, coming up the grass field there, and also field 1 that we initially spread the slurry in a couple of episodes ago, and get those 3 fields limed and fertilised with manure or slurry, and get those ready to rock, so that come next month into October and we get and the grass starts growing again, we've done what we can do in respect of treating the soil before the crop germinates again, which is great. So anyway, enough of my dulcet tones. We need to get cracking. I'm going to throw this job into a bit of a cinematic, stick a bit of music behind it again, and get cracking. So I'll see you when it's done. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the concept of getting a loan in the near future looks like it is getting increasingly stronger. We're down to just over $60,000 now. I have had to refill this lime spreader 3 times during the process of liming that field, emptying the lime tank there once and then having to refill it again with another 15 grams worth of lime, 60,000 litres. We've got about 50 something thousand litres left in there now, because obviously I've had to take from it bit by bit, and we've now got 20% left in the tank. So even with adjustable spray levels down to I wound that down to 10%, it still drank heavily from the lime. So yeah, and there's still maybe a couple of little bugs that need to be ironed out with precision farming. I don't know whether it's because this is a mod map or not, but it has obviously been updated to support precision farming. But as you can see in our little box in the top left hand corner, it's still, even with the lime spreader unfolded, with the arms unfolded now as I've just done, it still says there's no values detected. And in the mini map in the bottom left, of course, there's no pH map in the field that we're currently in, which is a little, it is what it is. It's just one of those little things. I'm sure it'll get sorted out in the near future, ASAP, from Giant's End. Hopefully, we shall see. But the main thing is, our first field has been lime. So if we jump into our precision farming menu, as you can see there, it's a little bit patchy. Again, I have no answer for this. The same thing happened to me over on Oak Bridge Farm at the beginning of the week on my other series, but the application has applied in a stripy pattern. Even though the application rate was meant to be the same, I don't know what the score is. The blue patches are at either end of the field. That is a result of course play, moving a bit too slowly and double applying, so to speak. So that's something that it might have been a bit more out in my control if I hadn't ran course play, but I do that for the purposes of the cinematics. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. It is what it is. It's only a few patches here and there. It's not going to make a massive difference to the overall yield of the field. And again, I don't have any answer as to why it applies in a stripy fashion. I'd have expected to have applied evenly across the whole field, regardless of the blue patches at the end. But either way, it's done. The first field is done anyway, but it's going to cost us a pretty penny, even running at 10% application rate. It's going to cost us a lot of money to keep our fields with the initial spray of increasing the pH levels. Forgive me, my brain went to sleep then. Yeah, it's going to cost us a pretty penny to keep these pH levels up. That's for sure. Of course, we don't have to do everything all at once. We've only got 3 fields to cover at the minute. The rest of the fields we can't do anything with until harvest time. But either way, like I say, when it comes to the plan of expanding the farm a bit and doing the construction of the 1 or 2 cow barns, that's going to cost an investment just for the buildings alone. Because I do want to use the same cow barn that I've got over on the farm, the indoor cow barn by BSL Modding. That's 250,000 quid each. So if I wanted to place 2 of those down, it's £500,000 quid, and the timing of everything isn't necessarily going to work well. I do want to get that big project done through winter when the cows are indoors. And winter's coming up in the next few months, so the reality is I might have to get myself a hefty loan. I don't really want to be selling any more machinery if I can help it. Yeah, I'd rather... I mean, there's a whole load of stuff on there that we haven't used yet because we're still relatively young into this series, so I do still want to, you know, have a run with the Massey, for example, and obviously we've got the truck, the lorry, that I do want to keep for we do need that for harvest time and all that. So yeah, I don't just want to be getting rid of machinery willy-nilly just to keep the bank balance up. So the reality is I'm just going to have to face it at some point soon. There might be a loan, maybe of, I don't know, $750,000 perhaps, just to see us through. Perhaps, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the reality. Anyway, there we go. First bit of pH increasing done. Now we're not going to have to worry about the nitrogen, I don't believe, because we do still have a decent quantity of manure and slurry on the farm. So I'm not going to stress too much about that. We should be able to get the nitrogen brought up. The nitrogen isn't actually, it says it's okay. It's obviously at a value of 10 out of a needed 65 kilograms a hectare. So we are going to have to spread nitrogen in these fields through the slurry and the manure. So that'll be something to crack on with in the coming episodes. But for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to call it here. Thank you very much for watching. I really do hope you have enjoyed the video and found it a little bit of fun. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like my content, you like the way I'm doing things, please consider hitting that subscribe button and jumping on board, joining the channel. Please give the video a like if you can. It does do wonders. It helps the YouTube algorithm do its thing. And as always, there are a host of links in the video description below with my Giants Partner promo code. If any of you are in the market for purchasing Farming Simulator 25 and you like the idea of supporting the channel and helping out a creator, as always, I would be massively appreciative. And also, if any of you are in the market for purchasing an online server to play with your mates and you like the idea again of supporting the channel and helping out a creator, please consider using my G-Portal affiliate link, which again will be in the video description below. Any help and support there also would be massively appreciated. So, thanks again for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.